What is going on, guys? The Inside the Boot podcast, and we are back. Don't forget to check out the channel. We are very behind in Giants news, and we're going to be breaking down all of the recent news for the New York Giants. So much has happened since we've posted. We haven't posted in 2 weeks. I had to get my computer fixed, and I had to get a new webcam for the channel, and that's why things look a lot more clearer. And now we're back to making content, back to bringing you guys all the Giants, Yankees, and Rangers news. But let's get right into it. And I think the big thing right now is what is the future with Mike Kafka and Brandon Brown, the assistant GM for the New York Giants. And with Mike Kafka, he did interview with the Saints. He's had some in-person stuff. He was at the Senior Bowl coaching, and I think Mike Kafka is probably going to stay. I don't see him as a head coach right now, at least in my standpoint. I don't believe he is a head coach right now. I think at best he's just an offensive coordinator. And I think if he does return to the New York Giants, I expect him to pick up the playbook again and start calling plays for the New York Giants offense. And, with Brian Daboll, the big thing was the play calling last year. The fourth downs, the 2-point conversions, none of it was very good. None of it from the season was good. A 3-14 record. But with some other coaching staff developments, they hire Marquand Manuel, defensive backs coach from the New York Jets. And he previously served as a safeties coach for the New York Jets. The big thing that I take out of this is for our cornerbacks to develop. Andrew Phillips, Cordell Flott, Deonte Banks especially. He's the big name because they traded up to get Deonte Banks in that draft, and ever since then he had a bit of a down year this year. His rookie year was fun to watch, but with Deonte Banks and getting a new coach, new DB coach, I think that could help his development because Deonte Banks needs to have a good third year in the NFL. First year was good, second year was mediocre to bad. He was getting beat right at the catching point, and as a cornerback, you need to be good there. And I think just with Deonte Banks, it's just about developing into getting into a better player because the Giants need cornerbacks that can lock down CeeDee Lamb and A.J. Brown and in their division because their division is getting stronger and they have a tough schedule upcoming in the next season. And with the cornerbacks, we know that was one of the big weaknesses of, it's such a young group with Andrew Phillips taking a big role. Of course, Dory Jackson was your veteran presence, and then Deonte Banks. But the problem is that you weren't getting much out of Deonte Banks. Andrew Phillips with a great rookie season. The big thing that came out of the blue is it's a really nice stat for Deonte Banks. Out of cornerbacks for 400 coverage snaps, Deonte Banks ranked third in the NFL in average target separation, and he ranked 8th in tight window rate when targeted. But obviously the downfall was at the catching point, and that's the big thing, is that Deonte Banks needs to get better at. And we know he's a press corner. From Maryland, he was a press corner. And if you leave him out on an island like what I feel like Shane Bowen was doing a lot, it doesn't do any good for Deonte Banks. And when you take on guys like Amari Cooper, especially in that Browns game, where it was 2 touchdowns in a row with Amari Cooper, and he's just on an island. But he needs to be hands on hands and playing the body and being a physical corner, which is what they kind of drafted him for, was to be that physical corner. But, of course, a lot of things else. We had the Senior Bowl with all the quarterbacks. Obviously, I've said it multiple times. This quarterback class is nothing like the Jaden Daniels class. And I'm saying it's the Jaden Daniels class is because Jaden Daniels was the best quarterback for this season in that class. I thought Drake May was good. I thought Caleb Williams, despite the overall record, he was good. And now with Ben Johnson, he could be better. But Jaden Daniels was by far the best. I mean, he got to the NFC Conference Championship and lost to the Philadelphia Eagles. But there was a lot of good things out of Jaden Daniels. With this class, with Cam Ward and Shedeur being the two main guys, they're not as good as, at least on paper and what we've seen in film, they're not as good as Jaden Daniels in that class. I said it, I think, in the last video, that they would have been like the 6th or 7th quarterback behind all the quarterbacks in that class with Jaden Daniels, etc. But there's been another name on the radar for the New York Giants, and that's Jackson Dart from Ole Miss. Eli Manning said he was very solid. He liked how he talked. He liked how he moved the ball. And Joe Shane and the New York Giants as an organization love Jackson Dart along with the Cleveland Browns. And also he was the best quarterback probably at the Senior Bowl. He was way better than Jalen Milroe, Riley Leonard, Dylan Gabriel, all of those guys. So with Jackson Dart, he's been seemingly moving up the board, moving up the draft board. There's been some talks that he could be, a first-round talent. It could be a Bo Nix situation where he gets drafted highly on the board in like the top 10, top 15. I don't know if he goes that high, but he showed a lot of good things and a lot of things that I like as a quarterback for my team. I want a quarterback that can move the football downfield and move fast, and I don't want to see hesitation. All the time when the Giants had Daniel Jones, there was so much hesitation on the throws, and there wasn't enough confidence. I feel like with Jackson Dart, I see that a little bit more. Granted, it is just a Senior Bowl, but I think Jackson Dart could be a good quarterback in the NFL, and the more and more I watch him, the more and more I like him. The more and more I like him as a draft pick. Now, the big question is, does he fall into the first round? And then if the Giants take, let's say Travis Hunter falls to them, and they take him at 3, and they still love Jackson Dart, is that a situation where the Giants are gonna move back into the first round and trade a few picks to move up to get that potential franchise quarterback in Jackson Dart out of Ole Miss? And I wouldn't, be mad about that. If I'm trading draft picks, I want it to be for a damn good football player. We've seen the Giants trade up for mediocre at best. The Jalen Hyatt was not a good trade up. The Deonte Banks, this is kind of his last shot to see if he is entering bust territory. I know a lot of Giants fans are already saying and highlighting him as a bust. I think this third year for me is really the last straw. If we don't see any sort of real development and he's getting burnt or he's acting like a crybaby on the field and he's just not running, then yeah. But I love Deonte Banks as a player. I like the energy, but I need to see more out of him. But yeah, and getting back to the free agency, getting to that, we talked about Sam Darnold last video. That I know there's a perfect fit there. Victor Cruz said it, that he's a potential good fit and he could be the bridge quarterback, and then the Giants bring in Arch Manning in 2026. But for me, I feel like, Sam Darnold's going to get a Baker Mayfield 3-year, $100 million deal. And me personally, I don't think paying Sam Darnold $35 million is the right move for the Giants. They already had a contract issue with Daniel Jones with the $40 million over 4 years, $82 million guaranteed, all of that. I don't need to go with that with Sam Darnold. I look at that Vikings team, and they're a phenomenal football team. From the offensive line, to the weapons, to the tight ends, to the defense. I'm not really that shocked when I look at it now that how Sam Darnold played how he did. He's got Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, Aaron Jones in the backfield. Now, did I think they were going to have, 13 wins this year? No, I didn't think that, but I don't think paying Sam Darnold is the best solution, and that's why I'd rather go for a guy like Justin Fields. I'd even, be open to signing Jameis Winston, who recently came out, talked to Saquon Barkley at the Super Bowl Media Day, and said, I need a job. Where am I going to go? And Saquon basically said, I know the New York Giants are looking for a quarterback. And then I think another person said, would you be open to signing with the New York Giants? And Jameis Winston said, absolutely. I love Brian Dable. I love what he does over there, and he thinks that this Giants team can take a turn in the right direction. I wouldn't mind signing Jameis Winston because I know that next year is not a contending year for the New York Giants. And then again, you look at it like how much more longer is John Mara going to keep Brian Dable and Joe Shane? Because John Mara wants playoffs like that. I mean, he wants playoffs right now for the New York Giants because these last 2 years were not good. After the 2022 season where the Giants made the playoffs, they have not been good. And another player outside of Jameis Winston in free agency is Stefon Diggs. Pro Football Focus said that the Giants have a great shot at landing Stefon Diggs, and it could be the best landing spot for Stefon Diggs. Stefon Diggs played with Brian Dable at Buffalo. Maybe this is a connection that, hey, let's bring in Stefon Diggs. Let's get a veteran wide receiver. Might be Darius Slayton's replacement, but Stefon Diggs is a good player. Despite the locker room issues, he is still a good football player and would be one of the better wide receivers on the Giants outside of Malik Neighbors. I think Stefon Diggs would be your second best wide receiver. Now, I think if they sign Stefon Diggs, you could probably say goodbye to Darius Slayton and thank everything that he's done, and then Wan'Dale Robinson can be your slot guy. And the thing with Wan'Dale Robinson that I want to see out of next year is more yards after catch. That last game in Philadelphia, I think he had 10 receptions for 55 yards. That doesn't cut it. Now, granted, maybe the scheme and what they were having him run faulted him of only getting 55 yards, but I don't know. Not very good for that. And the big issue with signing Stefon Diggs is he is coming off an ACL tear, and usually coming off an ACL tear, you're not gonna be the same player as you once were. So there's a possibility that they don't sign him because of injury concern, or Joe Schoen likes him. Another player was Will Fries. We talked about him as one of the good landing spots that I think that the Giants should go after, because he is a offensive guard. He had an 86 PFF grade, which is very good, and the Giants need guard help. Greg Van Roten, who was listed as a good signing for the New York Giants, I don't know how much left he has in the tank, and they said John Runyon was the worst signing for the New York Giants, and you need guard help to help out JMS. Say what you want about JMS, if he's a good center, if he's a mediocre center, your guards need to be good, and they're not. This offensive line needs help. They need a lot of help, if they want to start moving in the right direction and winning football games. Another thing that caught up to my mind that I never was able to post was the potential of Bobby Okereke being cut. Now, I don't think he's getting cut. It was just an article that I saw, and I figured, why not? Let's talk about Bobby Okereke. And the big thing was because his contract, his cap hit, is set to balloon at $14.46 million in each of the final 2 years of his deal. And, obviously Joe Schoen is trying to rebuild this roster and, have enough cap space. And if you cut Bobby Okereke after June 1st, it would free up $9 million in cap space. Or you could do what I did previously and, start restructuring Brian Burns' contract, maybe Andrew Thomas, stuff like that. But getting into Darius Slayton's future, 6 seasons with the New York Giants, and I think this might be his last, because I don't know what the Giants are going to do. I don't know if Joe Schoen is going to spend a lot. I know they currently have like $50 million-ish in cap space. They could obviously free up more by cutting Graham Gano after June 1st, saving up $4 million. And like I said previously, with restructuring the contracts of Andrew Thomas, Brian Burns, and Dexter Lawrence, if they wanted to do that again. But yeah, just looking ahead, getting into this draft class, of course, the Giants have the 3rd overall pick, and the biggest thing is to hit on this draft. You did a good job last time with getting Malik Neighbors, so you got your wide receiver 1, who had over 1,000 yards with, 4 different QBs. But as of right now, the current odds for who is going to be selected at pick number 3, minus 115 is Shedeur Sanders out of Colorado. Travis Hunter out of Colorado at minus 115. Jalen Milroe at plus 350 out of Alabama, quarterback. And the cornerback out of Michigan, Will Johnson, That is at plus 800. And yeah, I mean, I think you're getting either Travis Hunter or Shedeur Sanders. Unless the Giants opt to trade back and they trade with a team that is, quarterback hungry like the Las Vegas Raiders, and they make a deal there, and the Giants get more draft capital, because the Giants need to add as much draft capital as they can and turn these draft picks into starters. I'm tired of seeing picks for needs. I want to see the best players available, and you're taking them. And listen, I would love to have Abdul Carter on this team, because that pass rush would be legendary. But I think in Joe Shane's mind, it's quarterback. And I mean, if I was taking the pick at 3 and, it goes like Abdul Carter at 1 and then, Cam Ward at 2, I think I'm taking Travis Hunter over Shedeur Sanders. And call me crazy, but I'm not really hesitating. I'm kind of taking that pick and running with it, because Travis Hunter is an elite player. And I'm not saying Shedeur Sanders isn't. I think he can be a good quarterback. He has good poise. He has good, arm strength. He could, create something out of nothing. But I don't know. Finally, the Giants get some bad news. Myles Garrett has requested a trade that he may want out of Cleveland. Don't blame him. Don't think the team is contending anytime soon, because you got the Baltimore Ravens, Cincinnati Bengals on the come up after a season that they missed the playoffs, and then the Pittsburgh Steelers are always that middle of the pack team, and the Browns are just not that good. So maybe you trade them. And as of now, per DraftKings, for the odds to land Myles Garrett, plus 300 is the Cleveland Browns. But this is the bad news. Plus 400, I know it's just betting odds, is the Washington Commanders. And I can see the Washington Commanders going after Myles Garrett, because of the fact that Myles Garrett and Dan Quinn's defense would be really freaking good. And this team struggled on defense. They allowed 50-plus points to the Philadelphia Eagles. Saquon Barkley ran all over them. A.J. Brown had a good game, but mainly that defensive front and the run game is what they need help in, and that's why getting a guy like Myles Garrett and even getting more pressure on the quarterback, any defensive coordinator is going to love that even more, and you bring in a guy like Myles Garrett would be a big boost for the Commanders, but I don't want to see that as a Giants fan. We clowned the Washington Commanders every year because we were able to beat them. But now, the tides have turned, and Jaden Daniels' era is here. And it's going to be a lot tougher to beat all 3 teams down. Usually it was like, all right, we're taking care of Washington, and we're probably getting swept by Philly and Dallas. Now you're looking at, you don't want to go 0-6 in your division. You haven't been able to beat the Philadelphia Eagles on the road in, I think it's like 10-plus years, honestly. Dallas, you always have an issue with. And like last year was a perfect opportunity to beat them. You couldn't. And then the Washington Commanders get Jaden Daniels and have a 12-5 season. And they defeat the Detroit Lions. They defeat the Buccaneers. So they're a good football team. So, a lot to see there for the Commanders. We'll see what they do in the draft. They've drafted well. They got a lot of cap space. A lot of things to worry about as a New York Giants fan, because it seems like all 3 teams, maybe not Dallas anymore, but at least Philly and Washington are really just gonna start become those 1-2 that are battling for the NFC East. And then the Giants are still looking for their quarterback, still looking for some defensive help, some offensive line help, another wide receiver to help out Malik Neighbors. I don't know. Plus 500 are the Raiders, plus 600 are the Patriots, plus 850 are the Cardinals, and the plus 950 are the Chicago Bears to land Myles Garrett. But I think that's going to wrap it up for this podcast, of course. Like this video, subscribe, turn all notifications on, because we're back. We got the webcam working, we got the content brewing, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.